Florence stirred under a pale morning sun, the Arno glinting like molten gold as it threaded through the city's heart. In a small, cluttered studio tucked behind the Oltrarno district, Luca Bellandi worked alone. He was a man of pale, almost translucent skin, dark wavy hair falling over his forehead, and green eyes so piercing they seemed to dissect the world. His frame was lean, sinewy, and moved with the deliberate grace of a predator surveying its prey. Today, his prey was not alive. It was a fresco, cracked and fading, yet still radiant with the faint glow of centuries past. Luca's hands hovered over the delicate surface, brushing away dust and grime with meticulous care. Every crack, every fleck of pigment, was a wound he sought to mend, a moment of life he tried to preserve. He had been called a genius by the city's art historians and restorers, a man who could breathe life back into dying masterpieces. But the admiration, the praise, it had never been enough. Restoration was a cold exercise. Preservation, Luca realized, needed a living touch. The studio smelled of linseed oil, varnish, and the faint trace of old wood. Canvases leaned against walls, gilded frames stacked like sentinels. Brushes were arranged by size and stiffness, each handle worn smooth from years of use. But despite the apparent order, a subtle chaos lingered. Small flecks of pigment scattered across the floor, a broken shard of glass, a bent frame. Luca ignored it all. His eyes were on the faces in the painting, cherubs, angels, saints. Their expressions were fragile, frozen between joy and sorrow. "Beauty must endure," he whispered, brushing a final touch across a saint's cheek. "Even if life cannot." Tonight, Luca would test a new method. Not with pigment, but with flesh. The fresco Luca had been restoring belonged to an old palazzo near the Piazza Santo Spirito. Its patron, a wealthy baron with a taste for lineage and elegance, spoke endlessly of the family's legacy. Luca heard only the whisper of the figures he restored, the tilt of a head, the curve of a wrist, the faint curve of a smile trapped for centuries. At night, the city's lanterns casting long shadows over the cobblestones, Luca wandered toward the university courtyard. Among the students was a young woman who captivated him, chestnut hair falling in waves around her shoulders, soft skin, and a posture that recalled Botticelli's Madonnas. He followed her discreetly, committing her every gesture to memory, imagining her immortalized in a tableau that no one could touch or ruin. When the moment came, Luca struck swiftly. The first kill was almost tender, careful, silent, executed with a precision that could only come from obsession. In his studio, he arranged her on a velvet chaise, draping silk over her body, tilting her head to catch the candlelight. Her hands were posed delicately, her expression serene. He stepped back, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. This was perfection. Luca's reputation flourished by day, his obsession thrived by night. Each new victim was chosen for a specific quality, a curve of the neck, a fleeting smile, a posture that suggested latent divinity. He studied them, sketching mental notes, observing gestures, memorizing expressions as if preparing live models for paintings that would never fade. Police reports hinted at a serial killer, but the peculiar artistry of the corpses left them baffled. They spoke of elegant poses and bizarre tableaus, but never of art. Luca allowed himself a small, private smile. They did not see, they never would. The thrill of recognition drove him deeper. By day, he restored frescoes with flawless precision, attending gallery openings, advising collectors. By night, his studio became a chamber where life and death merged in quiet harmony. Each tableau was a hymn to beauty, a whisper against decay. Bodies began appearing in Florentine galleries and historic apartments, posed as though stepping out of the canvas. Critics marveled at the aesthetic precision, remarking that the compositions could have been painted by a master. Citizens whispered of the still life killer, a shadowy figure blending artistry and horror. Luca watched these reports in detached pride. He analyzed every photograph, every critique. Some noted the painstaking attention to detail, the tilt of a wrist, the drape of a garment, but none understood the devotion behind it. The city's fascination fueled his madness. Detective Sofia Moretti, in her early 30s with sleek brown hair and sharp analytical eyes, took over the case. She studied the tableaus, noting subtle references to Renaissance and Baroque art. Luca noticed her presence immediately. A worthy adversary. He became more meticulous, adding symbolism and obscure historical cues to mislead investigators. Yet he also admired Sophia's intelligence, almost revering her as a necessary counterbalance to his genius. The thrill of a game elevated his artistry, and each tableau became more complex, more daring. By now, Luca had grown audacious. His final masterpiece would not be confined to a studio or a palazzo. It would claim a historic Florentine church, a grand cathedral whose stained glass fractured sunlight across marble floors. He envisioned a tableau that would make every critic gasp, a living painting of celestial beauty. He arrived at Santa Croce in the late afternoon, his long black coat brushing the polished stone, gloves concealing his fingerprints. The church was empty, save for the soft echo of footsteps and the scent of incense lingering in the air. Luca knelt beside a young man with sharp cheekbones and dark hair, arranging his limbs with the precision of a sculptor. He draped rich fabrics and positioned candles to catch the fractured light, creating a divine aura around the figure. From the shadows, Sophia and her team watched. The profiler had anticipated Luca's pattern. He always chose spaces imbued with historical resonance, spaces that elevated the human form into art. She gestured to her colleagues, her pulse steady, every sense tuned to the killer. Luca paused, raising his hands to inspect the composition. The stained glass cast kaleidoscopic colors on the floor, dancing across the marble like divine fire. For a brief moment, he allowed himself the illusion of omnipotence. Beauty was his domain, and mortality bowed to his design. Luca did not notice Sophia step forward until it was almost too late. Her voice, calm but commanding, echoed through the nave. "Luca Belandi, step away from the tableau." He turned slowly, green eyes glinting with serene defiance. "Do you not see?" he murmured, voice low, almost reverent. "This is beauty, life preserved in its purest form." "Life doesn't belong to you," Sophia said. Her gaze was sharp, unwavering. "It belongs to the living." A tense silence filled the cathedral. Luca's hands twitched as if sculpting the air itself. Slowly, he allowed himself to be handcuffed, his calm demeanor unnerving the officers around him. Even now, he catalogued the scene, his mind tracing potential improvements, future victims, and compositions that no law could touch. In his studio, authorities later discovered stacks of sketches and photographs, dozens of planned tableaus. There were plans for musicians, painters, students, even children from Florence's art academies. Each sketch was precise, annotated with historical references, fabric choices, candle positions, and lighting directions. Luca's obsession was not merely killing, it was preservation, a grotesque reverence for beauty frozen at the apex of life. Months passed. Luca awaited trial in a grey-walled Florentine prison. His dark wavy hair was slightly unkempt, his green eyes still piercing, still calculating. Guards noted his calm, almost detached demeanor. He spent hours alone, sketching miniature tableaus on scraps of paper, whispering softly to the figures he drew. Florence debated the morality of his work. Art historians argued whether his macabre masterpieces deserved preservation or destruction. Some saw genius, others saw a chilling perversion of life itself. Sophia sat in her office, reviewing the case files again and again. She could not shake the meticulous genius she had faced. She felt a lingering shiver each time she recalled the cathedral tableau, the way candlelight had made Luca's victims look alive, immortal, almost divine. Outside, Florence continued as always. The city streets glimmered with sunlight, the Arno reflecting its golden warmth. Tourists and locals admired the beauty of the city, unaware of the shadow that had moved among its galleries and churches. Yet in every carefully arranged corner, in every museum display, there remained a whisper of dread, a reminder that obsession could turn beauty into horror, that perfection could be achieved at a terrifying cost. And somewhere, in his small cell, Luca smiled faintly, pencil poised over paper. Beauty, he mused, could never truly die.